This is the Grapple of Your Eye podcast, episode 5, where today our special guest is Kev Lloyd. Welcome to episode 5 of the Grapple of Your Eye podcast, where our guest today is Kev Lloyd, the professional wrestler and world championship catch wrestling competitor, a man who is now one of the main trainers at the world famous Snake Pit in Wigan. And today he'll be discussing with us the world of catch wrestling and professional wrestling and the line he walks in between it. Okay then, my guest today is Kev Lloyd, known in professional wrestling as Sexy Kev, and known as getting around the world now, Kev, as a trainer at the Snake Pit. First of all, I'd like to just sort of find out when did Kev first find out about wrestling?
Well, a few things. So I first started in professional wrestling, watching as a kid, and when I was in high school, I thought, you know what, that's what I want to do when I'm older. So I started pursuing professional wrestling. Well, actually, first I started doing things like Thai boxing, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, because my thought was, as a professional wrestler, I want to have a realistic style. I'm not into the kind of phony looking stuff. My favorite wrestlers were the ones who you could tell were legit martial artists, and that's why I wanted to have a style where people thought, you know what, one, it's different, and two, it looks real. So I started doing stuff like that, and then I started pro wrestling training when I was about 19, 20 years old. It was actually Jack Gallagher, who was in the Northwest still at the time.
Yeah,
he said to me and another guy trainee, and said, "You want to go down to the Snake Pit and learn where pro wrestling came from, which was catch wrestling." So I went down to Wigan and trained, and Roy was there and Greg was there, and I got hooked on it. I'd already done a bit of jiu-jitsu and things.
Say again, sorry? I was going to say, going back to the process that she'd already started that a bit. Where did you train for that? Who did you train with for that?
So I was training at GPW, Grand Pro Wrestling, under Johnny Brannigan, and that would have been 2011. I started there. So and Johnny Brannigan was really good at coming up with characters as well for you. So that's how the whole Sexy Kev thing came about at the time. So that more came about just banter and training.
Yeah.
And all the boys are Sexy Kev and all that kind of thing. And then when it came to debuting as a character on a show, he said to me, what do you want to be called? And I was like, well, Sexy Kev, yeah. So and that's how that came about, really. It was started in banter, and the next thing it became a thing. And but I was doing this gimmick, and I started doing stuff like the catch wrestling and other things, the more like realistic styles, and I was getting I was learning good wrestling. Wrestling is very applicable to pro wrestling. After all, it's where pro wrestling comes from.
Yeah.
And I was getting kind of pigeonholed into just being a gimmick wrestler. You don't need to do all that. You just just.
Well, actually, I was going to say, one of the first things I thought when I checked out so much, I thought that your wrestling is so much stronger than your gimmick. Some people just need a gimmick, and that's fair, that works then, but you can just tell that you're much more than that.
Well, actually, years ago, so before the even the pro wrestling and all that, I was really into my bodybuilding, as in men's physique bodybuilding. Yeah. So I was in really good nick, and I just done a show down south. Miami Pro, it was called. I just done that show. It's basically men's physique, basically. Just done that, so I was in really good nick, and then I started debuted as Sexy Kev, and so I was dead lean. But that was one thing that got me on shows, I think, anyway. I was very, very green in my actual pro wrestling skills, but I was in good shape. So I honestly, and I had a good gimmick. So I honestly think that's why I got around quite a bit in the beginning. It was based off that, but as time's gone on and I've learned the craft, and I've seeked out different coaches to go and learn from, including learning skills and catch wrestling. My style has changed to the point now where I like to put or the catch wrestling back into pro wrestling again. So everyone's doing the same thing these days. Everyone locked up tall. They might take a wrist or whatever. And I thought to myself, no one's taking a leg. Like, no one does an outside sweep single or a double leg or an ankle pick. It's very rarely you see that kind of stuff. So I try and make sure I try and be different. And I actually picked that mentality up from Marty Jones. I trained with Marty. If you don't know Marty Jones, he's a British legend in professional wrestling. Nearly, just for people listening to this, if you look at wrestling posters, he's on nearly top of the bill on nearly all of them. He's a household name.
I saw him many times in my younger days, and he was, if I'm right, he was trained himself by Billy Robinson, wasn't he? At one point.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That black and white. There's a black and white video on YouTube, very popular, and you'll see Billy Riley in there and a young Roy Wood in there. And there's also you can see Billy Robinson. The video cuts to Billy Robinson's gym then, and you see a bunch of kids sat there, in the class, and one of them is Marty. He pointed it out to me, which just blew my mind. I've watched that for years, and then and then he's pointed out and said, "That's me there, that kid." And
what did training with Marty add to your sort of bag of tricks already? Because obviously, like you said, you had quite a wide background of different things. You'd started wrestling, you now training with Marty Jones. What did he open your eyes to?
Well, so the big thing was that Marty always drills into you is be different from everyone else. If everyone else is doing this, you should be doing that instead. And it's so hence with my wrestling style, everyone these days are all doing springboard this and that and running the ropes 100 miles per hour doing flippy floppy stuff. I'm not all about that myself, but I go the other way and do technical wrestling, back to basics, back to just pure wrestling again. So that's one thing Marty's taught me or drilled into me is be different from everyone else. The other thing as well was Marty understands the catch wrestling because obviously he's trained under Billy Robinson. He understands it. So he showed me how to put my my catch wrestling into pro wrestling. So using throws or the mat wrestling, there's lots of skills they learn in catch, but I struggle to think of where can I apply this single leg takedown, or where can I apply this throw, or Marty actually showed me, try this instead. Think you get shown certain things in pro wrestling, everyone does it the same way, and then Marty would be like, do that sit through there instead, and just different things like that. And he was showing me how to put my catch wrestling into pro wrestling, just a different approach of taking a wrist or taking a head, if you get what I mean. So
yeah, definitely. So how did that then? So you said through Jack Gallagher, you heard about the Snake Pit, and you stepped into the building there. What was that like? The first time, the very first. I mean, now you're a very familiar face there, but that first. I mean, for myself, I remember there's a picture of me standing under the sign before going in, like for that first time where you killed us, and we were just like, that was like a sort of as a life, that was a pilgrimage for me. Because when I was sort of younger, it wasn't there anymore. It was it was like there might be some training going on, but you had to know someone who knew someone properly to get in up there, and like to finally get there with this whole battered body, it was still an honor. But like for yourself, what was it like going in there? As I say, I've already trained with Marty, so you knew about the lineage of it, you knew about the history of it, I imagine.
So I think when I first went down, I think it's going to be 2012. I think so. I hadn't met Marty yet at this point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but as I say, Jack Gallagher said about going down there. So I went down with another lad. Well, at first I couldn't find it. He didn't have. Well, I didn't anyway. Have you Google your phones, Google Maps to direct you straight to the building. You used postcodes, didn't you, back then on a standard sat nav? So the sat nav led me to a housing estate somewhere, and I had to ask people, locals, "Excuse me, do you know where the wrestling gym is?" I found it eventually, and then I just I remember Greg was there. I remember everyone was really friendly, and I also remember thinking, so I was used to training with jiu-jitsu lads and different, like those kind of backgrounds.
Yeah.
Seeing how fast and powerful these wrestlers were, how quickly moved, and when they were wrestling live. I remember thinking, flipping heck. I remember thinking at the time, I'd rather pick a fight with a rugby player than one of these wrestlers. They just the way they moved, I hadn't seen it, and and they were built solid as well. Like the calves, that everyone was just they're solidly built. So that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me. Was it was just an eye opener of stepping into a different world, I guess. But yeah, everyone was dead friendly, and for years, I didn't know what I was doing really, so I was just getting battered and just trying to survive. But everyone was really nice. I want to say battered. No one took liberties or was cross facing me. Everyone was really nice to me. You know what I mean?
Just in a sparring manner, yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't have a clue what I was doing. I get taken down, but it wasn't. Back then, you weren't doing catch wrestling. It was freestyle wrestling you were doing, and then you had a seminar once a month. The last Saturday of the month was a seminar, catch wrestling seminar. So, and Roy would lead that, and then that's when you would learn your submissions. So you kind of learn in the week. You learn your takedowns, your mat wrestling, the actual wrestling part, and then once a month on a seminar, that's when you learn your submissions. So it was a bit different then. We're really lucky now. Everyone who comes now is really lucky to have these catch wrestling actual classes on and accreditations and workshops. But it was really you didn't have that all back then.
Yeah. So you've been in it as it sort of that's kind of a modern rebirth. So you've sort of seen that through, then I imagine, from sort of going yourself through to now, like you say, all the different levels, courses that they do at the Snake Pit, through to obviously now teaching yourself there. How did the teaching part come up? Was it just from time, or was it? Yeah, how did that happen for you? That's
So we shut for COVID, didn't we? There's pandemic and all that. We shut, and I think it was like in summer of 2021. They said you can open again. So Andrea, obviously, gym's about to open again. So, and Andrea gave you a call and said, "Would you like to be an assistant coach for this is what I'm planning on doing. This is the timetable is going to look like. Would you like to be an assistant coach?" Which I was absolutely honoured to be considered for that. Blew my mind, to be honest. And I was like, yeah, awesome, yeah, definitely. And and as time's gone on, so other guys will be leading the class. So let's say Chris Lomas leading the class, or Paul Wood leading the class, and I would be assistant coach. Now I'm kind of learning the process of coaching as well. I know the moves, but at the same time, there's far more to coaching than there is just knowing moves. Actually managing a class, or obviously you're thinking about health and safety. I don't want to go into all all that kind of stuff. Basically, there's loads that goes into coaching.
The teaching aspects of it as well as the technical aspects of it, sort of thing. That's what you mean.
Yeah. And I guess people managing as well. People. You got a bunch of wrestlers in the class, and it just kind of makes sure you manage them. He doesn't get out of hand. So you. But so I learned a lot in that sense, and I've been mentored through that, from all the coaches there, and Andrea and other and Roy as well. So there's a lot of mentoring going on for all that. So yeah, and now I'm at the point where I teach accreditations as well, and I teach classes there as well. So it's cool.
So how does it mix up now? If you look at sort of the pro wrestling side and the catch wrestling side, it's clear you're falling more to the catch wrestling side these days. What would you say? What's drawing you either way at the moment? What's the pull one over the other for you?
So I get things from the different let's call them sports. I know one of them's not technically a sport, but from the different sports, I get things from different ones. So catch wrestling, I enjoy the actual competitive of it, the fast pace of it, the actual just wrestling someone is you get that out of your system there. But on the pro wrestling side, I enjoy performing in front of a crowd. So getting a room of people booing you or cheering you, it's awesome. And I can't honestly, I can't explain the feeling of it, but you know, in my 20s, when people going out getting smashed in town, and you're boozing up on a Saturday night, uh, I'd much rather go out and perform on a show and actually get the crowds screaming, a room full of people cheering for you.
Yeah.
That's like, so for me, pro wrestling, that's a big thing that I still am hooked on. And the other thing as well is that, I learn all these cool moves in catch and all that, and then I get to show them off in my pro wrestling. So, might not always be able to pull it off in catch wrestling, but in pro wrestling, I certainly can. All these different throws and things and submissions. So it's kind of like, I get to showcase my skills in pro wrestling as well.
Excellent, excellent. What's it been like in being a coach at the Snake Pit, and over the last few years, I'd say, seeing these accreditations grow, seeing the actual Snake Pit itself grow. So we've had like the World Championships, now there's British Championships, there's a Scottish Championships coming up this year as well in a couple of weeks. What's it been like seeing that take off? At one point, it was kind of catch wrestling was almost, as I say, that was secret society on sort of a little bit of life support, and now it's sort of it's crawling back. Even Josh Barnett's flying the flag overseas, and Eric Paulson's getting involved, and everyone seems to be suddenly everyone's a catch wrestler.
Yeah.
But what's it been like seeing that grow?
Yeah, until I mentioned before about how it was all freestyle. Back in 2012, it was mainly freestyle with seminar once a month. Seeing how things have changed and grown gradually over the years. Yeah, I mean it's exciting for catch wrestling itself. Way more people are interested in it now. Say like 5 years ago when you would put a technique online, people they don't understand it, so they might criticize it. Whereas now people understand what catch wrestling is. So I think people just getting on board with it. It's exciting. Actually seeing as well how we started off with a level 1 back in 2021. That's the first level 1 we did. I took part in that as well. And then seeing how it's grown now, where we were doing I think last year we did 4 level 1s last year, right up to level 4 as well. So it's just it's pretty exciting to see how things have grown every single year. The first World Championships was in 2018, and then last year in 2024 we ran a World Championships, and we've got people from Japan, from the US, multiple teams from the US. Do you know what I mean? We've had I think of the countries in my head, but they're not coming to me. But it's grown in the amount of reach that we've had, people coming over to us. So yeah, there's a lot of hard work that's gone on behind the scenes for all that, and a lot of promoting.
Yeah. What about for the next year then? What's in the future of catch wrestling at the Snake Pit? What have you got up your sleeves for the next year or so that you can remember?
Yeah, well, we've got the Scottish Championships coming up. That's a new one. That's in a few weeks' time. So it's a new thing in the sense of.
Is that going to be? Is there any way anyone can watch that, or is it just ticket only? Just I can plug it for you. That's all.
Yeah, it's not going to be live streamed, this one, but I think it will be recorded, possibly put on YouTube or something afterwards. I think so. But yeah, as I say, the Scottish Championships, we've got that coming up. That's a new kind of regional thing. Perhaps in years to come, we might have an Irish Championships or even an English Championships, and a bit more regional kind of areas. Yeah. But now as we're getting more people on board, more people interested, we can actually start putting on more regional stuff now. It shows how much things have grown, the improvements. This year we're going to start running inter clubs again at the gym again, just so wrestlers can get experience again to grow the sport. British Championships again coming up, World Championships coming up again. Last year, so about things growing. Last year we went over to California to train with Josh Barnett and Eric Paulson as well, which was a phenomenal experience. Training with Eric Paulson in the mornings and then Josh Barnett in the evenings. You know, yeah, and then at the end of the week as well, we competed as well in Josh Barnett's tournament as well. Is it American Catch Wrestling Association competition that he ran? So it's nice the fact that he's coming over to our competitions, we're going over to his competitions. So it's again we're both helping each other
growing together. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I like it.
So, but yeah, that was a phenomenal experience. So we're looking to do that again this year to create a team to take over there, train with Josh Barnett again, and and do his competition as well. So that's a plan later this year. And then as for the level, the accreditations, we've got levels 1 to 5. So with the first level 5 coming up. So again, it's as things have grown over the years, we're now getting to the point where people have advanced through all the levels and we've gone up to level 5. So yeah, year after next year will be a level 6. But we might have to make it a level 7 at some point.
Yeah, it'll be a level 10 soon. Hopefully it will be. So it'll just keep growing. That's what we want.
Well, there's that many techniques, in we've got levels 1 to 6, but there's so many techniques in catch wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
We do cover a lot of them on the workshops. So let's say we got a Nelson's workshop. Your half Nelsons, quarter Nelsons, 3/4 Nelsons, and then submissions all coming off from them as well. We don't do 4 Nelsons just because it's illegal. You're gonna get banned straight away if you try doing a competition. But there's a lot of techniques that you might not necessarily cover in the accreditations, but on the workshops, you can go delve way more into those moves and submissions and scenarios that you might face. So one day maybe we might have a level 7 or whatever up to level 10, 20.
And for yourself, have you got any personal goals this year, either pro or catch or other martial arts or whatever you might be up to? What's Kev got? Have you got any targets or any goals?
Yeah, so I in both aspects actually. So catch wrestling, I want to compete again. I was training for the Scottish Championships, and then as of Tuesday just gone, I tore my pec. So yeah, so I'm rehabbing it at the moment. That was only a few days ago. So so I'm out of that competition. So hopefully I can do, maybe the British coming up, and and also as well, I wanted to. I was also looking to compete in some BJJ comps as a wrestler.
Yeah.
I think to grow the sport of catch wrestling, we need to be getting out there more and competing more in other sports and showing, this is catch wrestling. So my plan was to do some BJJ or no gi competitions, I should say, or just general submission grappling, whatever the rule sets, and just compete and just try and put catch back on the map again. So that was my plans in the grappling side of things. Pro wrestling as well. So some of the big shows, I've been around now since doing shows since 2013. So 11. This will be my 12th year coming up, I think, in pro wrestling. So I thought that to really try and pursue some of the big companies. So like Progress, Rev Pro. Wouldn't mind going back over to the WXW in Germany again, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, that's some of my goals, is trying to get out there a bit more, Kevin, and get on these big shows.
Excellent. If anyone wants to get hold of you, what's the best way? Someone's listening to this think, no, I want to book him, or I want to get something, find out a bit more about catch wrestling. What's the best way to get hold of you?
So my email address, my email address is kevinlloydpro@gmail.com, and my Instagram, which is probably the best place really, and I keep that up to date a lot if I'm up to anything. So that's Kev Lloyd Pro, @Kev Lloyd Pro on Instagram. They're the best places, I'd say, to come and find me, or to contact me.
Thank you for taking the time to chat to us today, despite all the slight technical issues at the start. And right, I will push stop on that now.
Thank you.
This was the Grappling Your Eye podcast, episode 5, our special interview with Kev Lloyd. We'd like to thank Kev for taking time out of his busy schedule to chat to us this week. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, you can keep up to date with us at the grappleofyoureye.com. We are also on social media. You can catch us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Blue Sky, all of those. And we are also available on your normal podcast listening apps and on Spotify. Please give us a like, follow and review. It really does help spread the word. And until then, we'll see you next time.